Hello, welcome to Eerie Explorations. Today we're going to take a deep dive, get it, into the game of Dredge. I'm Mythos Misfit, and welcome to the world of weird fiction gaming. So let's talk about the background of the game and the development. Dredge is an indie game. It was inspired by games like Papers, Please, Frostpunk, and the works of H.P. Lovecraft. It started development in 2020 and was released for all platforms in 2023. It's created by a studio called Black Salt Games, which seems to be a new studio. It's based in New Zealand and published by Team 17, who published a bunch of indie games. The main concept of the game is you play as a fisherman who's trying to collect lost relics while also selling fish and upgrading your ship and surviving the horrors of the deep. So going into the story, the fisherman that you play as responds to a job offer in Greater Marrow, but when he gets there, he crashes his boat into some rocks and damages it beyond repair. He awakens to the mayor who gives him a boat and he could pay. It kind of reminded me of Animal Crossing. It's like, hey, you had no choice to be here, it kind of seemed like, but here's a loan, and he gives you a boat that he kind of loans you, and you have to pay it back while catching fish for the town. Other characters give the fisherman tasks, but don't give him all the details, which immediately gives you a sense that something isn't really right. They're very kind of shady characters. Once the fisherman starts fishing at night, he sees a dark fog roll in, and it causes him to panic. The longer he's out there, the more he panics and hallucinates things, and then those things can actually hurt him. But eventually he starts catching some really strange corrupted fish with weird growths and deformed features. When he sells the fish to the fishmonger, he's at the town, he'll buy all of your fish for you. The man pulls out a handkerchief from one of these aberrations. This captures the attention of the collector, who kind of creepily stares at you through your little port window. He asks you to bring the handkerchief to Blackstone Isle, an island to the southern part of the Marrows. And once the fisherman arrives at Blackstone Isle, the collector hires him to dredge 5 more lost relics from the seafloor: a key, a music box, a ring, a necklace, and a watch. So the fisherman agrees, and he continues on his expeditions while looking for these relics. He learns about the old mayor of Little Marrow, who went mad yelling to throw things back while tossing property of residents into the sea, and then he just one day disappeared. He also learns that the last fisherman that was there was very unreliable and just wouldn't bring back fish. He only went out at night, and then one day he just left, never came back. Eventually the fisherman is able to track down the key behind Greater Marrow and brings it back to the collector. For his reward, the collector casts a spell from his Book of the Deep, giving the fisherman boat unnatural speed. The collector tells the fisherman that the next relic is this area to the south of the Marrows called Gale Cliffs. And when the fisherman asked if he knew who these relics belonged to, he replied with an old friend. At Gale Cliffs, the fisherman finds the settlement destroyed by the collapse of an unstable cliff wall, blocked off by rubble. He has to figure out how to clear it in order to retrieve the music box. An old widowed hermit nearby tells the fishermen of the destruction of the Gale Cliffs. A huge serpent has been burrowing tunnels through the base of the cliffs, causing them to become unstable. The subsequent rock falls from this unstable cliff cause the destruction of the nearby town and the loss of the hermit's wife. The hermit wants to move back to a nearby former whaling town called Ingfell, but the hermit and his brother had a falling out when they were younger. They were fighting over the family inheritance, but when the hermit left Ingfell, he stole family crest without telling them. Sadly, the family crest was lost when the serpent carried debris from the town ruins through its tunnels, so the hermit won't return to Ingfell without it, and the fisherman offers to help find it. Having outrun the serpent more than once, maybe a couple close calls, the fisherman finally finds and returns the family crest to the retired whaler in Ingfell. The retired whaler accepts his brother's apology and offers to let the hermit stay with him. But first, he asks the fisherman to detonate some explosives that the retired whaler had set up earlier to make a shortcut through the cliffs, which the fisherman does easily. Now with the family crest restored, the fisherman delivers the hermit to Ingfell, where the two brothers reunite and forgive each other. As a reward, the retired whaler gives the fisherman some extra explosives, which he uses to finally clear up the debris and dredge up the music box. When the fisherman brings the music box to the collector directs him to sail to the stellar basin for the next relic. He also gives the fisherman the ability to teleport back to Blackstone Isle whenever he wants. Upon arriving to the popular vacation spot of the Stellar Basin, the fisherman comes upon an abandoned and decaying vacation resort, as well as an abandoned research station. The research station seemed to have been attacked through the floor by a large and powerful creature. The fisherman finds a note there that says, "Not safe. Expect retaliation imminently." evacuating to the fort. The fishermen soon discovered the fort nearby, and its only occupant was a red-haired researcher living there by herself. She tells the fishermen of the attack of the research station. It was caused by a massive octopus-like monster that now rests in the middle of the basin. The middle of the basin also so happens to be where the ring currently resides. To help the fishermen retrieve specimen for the researcher, she develops a fishing rod capable of reaching to the deepest parts of the sea, as well as a device that can temporarily pacify the monsters. After venturing into the center of the basin, the fisherman is able to return to the researcher with the specimen, the ring, and his life. She's able to deduce that the creature in the basin is causing dangerously high amounts of cellular mutations to the fish in the area just by being there, thus causing the aberrations that you see. And when the fisherman returns to the collector tells him of yet another relic in the Twisted Strand, which is a mangrove swamp area, and rewards the fisherman with a protection spell. When asked what the relics will be used for, the collector replies with, they have the ability to bring back that's been lost. And then in the Twisted Strand, the fisherman meets an airman whose squadron all crash landed and became stranded there. The airman is the only remaining member of the squadron. The rest were killed by the mind suckers, these little parasitic snake-looking things that are wandering the area. He asks the fisherman to help him set traps to avenge his fallen squadron and kill the mind suckers. Fisherman finds some mortar pieces and collects some bait. He uses the bait to trap each of the mind suckers while the airman blows them up. The airman wanted proof of the mind sucker deaths, so the fisherman brings back the heads of each one. From one of the heads, the airman rips out a necklace relic and gives it to you for helping him. Ultimately, the airman decides to stay stranded on the island because he would feel wrong leaving his fallen comrades there, and it's kind of become his home at this point. The fisherman brings the necklace to the collector, and he gives him the ability to catch all the fish in an area. He tells the fisherman the last relic is in Devil's Spine, a hellish volcanic area of a fallen civilization. When arriving to Devil's Spine, the fisherman encounters a fanatic who tells the fisherman he is going to be the fanatic's replacement. The fanatic mentions the rite of the purification and then asks the fisherman what the spirit seeks, what his flesh craves, and what the world deserves, before telling the fisherman, no matter what he answers, that he has much to learn. The fanatic tells the fisherman that he is now his initiate, known as the Herald of the Purge, instructs him to fetch 3 fathomless flames from the shrines of the deep. After fetching these flames, the fanatic shows the fisherman that he is in possession of the last relic, the watch, but won't hand it over until after the ritual is complete. So the fanatic begins the ritual, and as he's chanting, the wind and the sea become hostile. Blue flame starts at the base under him, growing until it completely engulfs the fanatic. When the flame dissipates, there's nothing there but the watch. That's where we come to the end. The fisherman delivers the final item to the collector. He then takes the collector to this glowing red beam that you've seen in the background throughout the entire game. The collector reads the passage from the Book of the Deep while throwing the relics into the water. Then the collector's wife slowly rises from the sea, but with her also rises the deity who destroys the greater Marrow area and probably the rest of the world. So that was the first ending we were able to get to. I was able to do that on stream, but there is also an alternate ending. But the fisherman finds the old mayor of Little Marrow. He'll ask the fisherman if he threw the book back yet. Obviously, the fisherman would be confused by this, and the old mayor tells him about a couple that dredged up the Book of the Deep that brought in the fog, as well as some monster that sunk their ship. With this knowledge, the fisherman decides to withhold the artifacts from the collector, and when he goes to confront him, finds out that the collector is actually himself. The collector is actually just the creation of the fisherman's mind from the guilt of his wife's death. And in this alternate ending, the fisherman heads out to sea and throws the book into the ocean. When he does that, he's swallowed up by this massive sea monster, never to be seen again. Now that we're done with the story, let's talk about the mechanics. Dredge has this Tetris-like inventory management system that makes it so you have to really think about what you're going to put on your ship. Whenever your ship gets damaged, it takes a block out of that system, which can either get rid of, let's say you have a prized fish, it gets rid of your prized fish, or it can just like stop your engine and then you just can't go anywhere. Better equipment means less space for cargo. So the better equipment you want, it's bigger and you can't hold as much stuff to make as much money. There's also a time management system. So moving in dredge changes the time. Any activity that you do, fishing and dredging, it uses time. The better you do at a little mini game that it gives you, the less time it takes to do those activities. And then you're more likely to catch aberrations at night, but it's dangerous because of the panic system, which we're going to go into the panic management system. Your panic increases at night or when in proximity of an enemy. The higher the panic you are, the more danger that is thrown at you at any given moment. You can dredge up materials from other ships to create equipment that upgrades your boat to help you navigate the night better. And then there's also a magic system of powers that are given to you by the collector, but when these powers are used too much, can come at a cost. For example, if you use the haste power that lets your boat go faster, if you use it too long, it damages your engine, so you could be stranded out in the ocean. The visuals in this game are really great. I love the art style. There's this fog that comes at night, and that's used as a tool to contrast the night where you can't see anything at all, to day where it's literally clear, you can see anything for miles. And when you're on the open ocean, I realized that like having so much empty space makes you kind of afraid of what's underneath you. Like anything could be under there, and it really kind of freaks you out even during the day. But at night, when you can't see anything, it's even like more terrifying. At night, there's also these hallucinations brought on by the panic that are so off-putting that they kind of put you on edge even if they're non-hostile. Like there's these little eyes that pop up, and they just surround you with little eyes like they're looking at you, and you just feel so unnerved. And then the sound design really helps toward just the mood of the game, because there's the calming sound of the waves for most of the game, but then it leaves a lot of room for when those pivotal kind of creepy moments, when the sound comes on for that, it's even spookier. So there's some really cool themes in the story. The one that it took me a while to get, but it's holding on to the memory of lost loved ones. This can be shown as there's the grieving father in Little Marrow, and he asks you to get his belt buckle back for his son. His son passed away in a shipwreck, and he's willing to do whatever he can just to hold on to that little piece of his son. There's also the two brothers that we talked about in Gale Cliffs. They're fighting over the family crest that their parents left them and their inheritance. The researcher finds these really weird notes written by her deceased sister that were just never written while she was alive, but those keeps the memory of her sister alive. The airman decided to stay in Twisted Strand because he couldn't bear the thought of leaving his fallen comrades there by themselves. And then finally, there's you, the fisherman / the collector, being willing to destroy the world to bring back your wife. Another minor theme in here that I found that kind of goes with the weird fiction-y parts of this game are human insignificance. Everything the humans build in this game were destroyed at some point or another by some kind of just random sea monster who didn't even know what they were doing. It just kind of happened. So there's nothing anyone can do about it. Just the death of these structures are inevitable, and then they have no meaning afterwards. And then another kind of bigger one is the fall from grace. So these fish are being mutated because of the proximity of the sea monsters. So they're being taken from what they were supposed to be into these mutated aberrations. And a lot of characters, they go from being fear-minded to mad by eating these corrupted fish, or from witnessing some kind of horrible realization. The fisherman's morals went out the window when he found out he could revive his wife. He just decided to go so hard on that. It's also shown through the panic system of like you going insane whenever you are out at night. Like the fog kind of corrupts you. Each town shows that at one point it was thriving, and now it's just a shadow of its former self. For example, Ingfall was a very successful whaling town. Devil's Spine seemed to be some kind of ancient civilization that fell, and the resort at Stellar Basin was supposed to be a tropical resort, but now it's just abandoned and decaying. So I enjoyed this game. Some likes that I have about it, I really like the way that they deal with some of the threats in the game. You can use this banish spell, and the more you use it, the less it works, and it only works temporarily. So you can use it, and let's say the mind suckers will just like go away, but they'll come back eventually. It doesn't kill anything. Like it can't stop them. You do kill the mind suckers, but those are the only things you could really deal with. They're very small. I also really enjoyed the somber tone throughout the story that I think the soundtrack really helped emphasize. You can see there's a lot of dread amongst the people of the Marrows and other towns where everything isn't as good as it should be. It could be better, but it just isn't. Yeah, and then again, that sound design, perfect. I love it. It was so good. It set the tone amazingly. Like they killed it with the sound design. I also really appreciate about this game is that they wanted to make like a good Lovecraftian type game that didn't really take the typical route of the Smith, New England, I'm a private investigator game. And some dislikes I had for the game. Late game, when you progress your boat, there's really nothing to be afraid of. everything's pretty easy at that point. And then I was also hoping for more towns like Ingfell and the Marrows, because I really like the characters there. I thought they were really cool and like kind of spooky. I also wish I could have learned more about those characters and they had more like world building to it. But also, this is an indie studio, so I can understand that they also made it in like 3 years. That's just a minor. It's like, I think a really good way to enjoy it if you are worried about how people say that the late game progression just kind of takes a lot out of there. When we were streaming, I gunned it towards the end, so I didn't really do a lot of upgrading, and it made the game actually a lot more difficult and kind of scary, especially at the end in the Devil's Spine area. I was really on edge there, so I would say don't upgrade your stuff a lot until after you finish the campaign, and then you can upgrade your entire boat. And if you want to go fill in the encyclopedia and stuff, you can go do that. I also had a theory that I thought was just kind of funny. I was kind of hoping the whole time that the traveling merchant was going to be Nyarlathotep, because, you know, she just in a whole bunch of different places at the same time, and she gets there before you. So I was like, wouldn't that be kind of funny if she was like some kind of eldritch being? But I don't think that's the case. If it is, please tell me. That's kind of funny if it would be. I'd love to know. Maybe in the DLC, that'll be it, because we don't really learn that much about her. But in conclusion, yeah, Dredge is more than just a Lovecraftian adventure. It's a deep story about dealing with loss and kind of learning to accept it. It's definitely high up on my list of weird fiction games. I highly recommend it to anyone who wants to play it. It's also only like 30 bucks, I think, so not very much money in the world of $70 games. I applaud Black Salt Games for this masterpiece, and I'm really excited to see if they continue keeping with these kind of games, what they do in the future. But yeah, I'd love to hear what you guys' thoughts are on the game in the comments. Please let me know. I'd love to hear it, and maybe throw in some of your fan theories or whatever. So yeah, thank you for watching. Please go follow me on Twitch. That's how I got all the footage for this game, so you can watch me play it, see all my genuine real-time reactions, and come join the Discord. I'll let you know when I'm streaming. I'll let you know when a video comes out, and there's a cool community there of awesome people. If you like this video and you want to see more, please click the box in the corner of the screen to see more.